Yes, stay around. We've got the panel coming up next, so it's going to be a lot of people in the room in a second. Hello, hello, welcome,
Hello.
welcome. So I will let Pete formally introduce everyone, but next up is the panel. So we're going to be going into the Future Thinkers panel, live action panel. Yeah, live action panel. So Pete will be moderating and hosting with questions. And here we are with Luke. And we're just waiting for Pete now. So while we're waiting for Pete, would you like to please take a moment to introduce yourself and let people know briefly, 2 to 5 minutes, who you are, what you're doing, and representing right now. Let's start with X Demand.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here again. So, I'm Xavier. I'm from Brussels. I'm an entrepreneur, developer, and come from the Web 2 space with my previous startup, Open Collective. And now I've been more in the climate activism and trying to bring DAOs and climate together. So, there is kind of a bridge there, and that we need to bring people together to address the climate emergency.
Welcome, Luke. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Yeah, I can hear you. It's a bit laggy, but we're good. I'm Luke, born and raised in the Caribbean on a small island called Curacao. For the past 4 years, I've been working full time in DAOs. Started my journey in Genesis Alpha, which was the first DAO by DAOstack. Did a bunch of different DAOs ever since, from DAO Fest, which Fest DAO, which is not a DAOist, Prime DAO, where you may know me from, but also Collectivo, which started as a social impact DAO in 2019, where we gave local grants to the people in Curacao. In 2021, we created a partnership with MakerDAO, where we created Curadai, a local currency for the island. And over the past years, we've been working closely, especially with Cello and the Climate Collective, to create Collectivo, a framework for local regenerative economies that aims to regenerate the biosphere, but also local cultures, especially of small island nations, but also for local towns and villages. Going to launch the first pilot in Curacao in September, and we're also in conversation with some other small island nations to see how they can benefit from our tools and network. Exciting to be here.
Awesome. Welcome, Luke. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, my name is Mike. I started the Future Thinkers podcast with my now wife, Yuvi, who can't be here because we have no childcare at the moment. But yeah, we started that almost 10 years ago now. Problems facing humanity. We would always ask the question of our guests, how can people be more adapted to the coming changes in our technology and in society and in consciousness. So a couple of years ago, we announced our intention to start a regenerative smart village project. We were able to crowdfund a little bit of money to raise to actually purchase a 400-acre piece of land. And now our kind of central mission is to scale up and spread the regenerative village meme and help other people start villages all over the world.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, Patrick. How's it going?
Hey, it's going well. My name is Patrick. Sorry, I don't have video for this call, but I've been in Web3 for a long time. The project I most recently left, but was deeply involved with, was Pocket Network, decentralized infrastructure for RPC access. But I recently left this to help launch Tampa Bay DAO, which is a local DAO focused on the empowerment of people in the community through education and tooling. So great to be here and happy to talk with y'all.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, we're still waiting for Peace. Um,
Start jamming. Waiting for
okay.
him. Ah, here he is.
Oh, yep. There's Peace.
As soon as you start, the party joins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Peace. Everyone had a
There
chance
we
to
go.
introduce themselves. This would be the perfect time for you to introduce yourself, and then feel free to jump into the questions and take it away. I'll leave the panel to your capable hands.
Thank you, sir. I thought we were all waiting, like for the last speech to end. I was waiting. Refresh now. Okay. Yeah, good to see. We got started already. Uh, a good mix of people here, so we decided to do this panel on local action, and well, two of the panelists are doing something more urban, so two are doing something more rural. I think that's a good mix, and yeah, why don't we just get started with hearing what kind of things these people are working on? What was I missed the first part. Did you already ask them to introduce themselves?
Yeah.
What's
Yep,
Yep.
everyone already introduced themselves.
And did you all introduce yourselves and your projects, or just yourselves?
Yep, projects too.
And the projects. Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
I just introduced
Bounce
myself.
off of that, Peter, into the void here.
All right. Luckily, I know all of your projects, so that's good. But I do want to hear more about like what got you to start them.
So
Who do you want to start?
yeah, actually didn't talk about the project that I was really involved in right now. So maybe I can start sharing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Please do.
we've been basically building All for Climate DAO to try to bring all those climate activists that do local action in a very decentralized way. So whether we talk about Extinction Rebellion that is doing non-violent civil disobedience to ring the alarm bell, or Fridays for Future, or other movements like the Transition Network, Transition Town. And so we basically started that to basically create commons together, right? A shared infrastructure that can help all of those local initiatives because they all bump into the same issues, which is okay, I'm a local initiative. How can I raise money? How can I find people to contribute? And instead of everyone reinventing the wheel every single time, creating a legal entity, a bank account, raising money and all of that, which is a lot of bureaucracy and distraction, really, and a lot of wasted energy, we decided to create a common infrastructure. And so we started kind of in the classic legacy infrastructure, creating a nonprofit, and then using Open Collective, enabling all of those local groups to operate in a decentralized way. And now we are trying to do that more in the Web3 space. And we are working with Gitcoin to help all of those climate related projects to raise some funds. And we also try to help them become DAOs because we believe that actually the future of organizing, if we want to make it sustainable, DAOs and Web3 is really kind of a key missing piece of the puzzle to really make those activities sustainable. And the last thing we just did just a month ago, actually, just 1 month ago in Brussels, we organized the first Regions Unite. So I was actually quite interested with what Mike was saying when he was introducing himself, talking about region village. So there's this old meme, right, about region that I really think that we need to hammer right now. It has to be the new cool thing, right? To think not in terms of degens, but thinking in terms of how can we move beyond sustainability, but regeneration, right, for us individually, but also as collectives. And so one thing that we realized was that there's a lot of people working on those regenerative solutions, whether coming from nonviolent communication, activism, or Web3. But we often kind of are each in our own bubbles. And so we don't really know about others, even though we share the same end goal and the same values. We don't really know about each other. And maybe if it's even worse, like we kind of only know about each other through social media and clickbaits. And so we tend to have an opinion already made up about all those crypto people that are burning the planet. right? Or all those activists, they are terrorists, right? Those kind of very cliche type of things. And I think we need to move beyond that and go back to what unites us and realize that we all want the same thing. And we might not understand why there are all of those different ways of getting active, but we need to trust each other. We need to trust that, okay, I may not really know why Extinction Rebellion is doing that, or I may not really know why Web3 people are doing this, but I know that they're doing this for the right reasons, and so that we can move together towards, all right, let's go to that regenerative solar punk future that we want.
Amen. Right. Let's continue with Luke. Although I'm sensing a kind of a similar answer.
No, maybe not really. Imperialism is my answer. Um, Coming from a small former colony, I've seen a whole community deprived of opportunity, mainly because they do not have the tools necessarily to create autonomy. Think about monetary means, think about functional governance systems. And that is really where this all started for me, is when I first figured out about DAOs, DeFi was not a thing. I didn't that much think about funding things. I was just thinking about governing things the right way without bureaucracy or or nepotism. That was really the starting point for me. The realization that in the current systems, in the current trickle down economy, the right things do not get support because decision makers are influenced by less important things, especially in a small Caribbean island. It's more like a popularity contest instead of anything else. Um, and that's really where our journey started. And it's later on that we realized that once we have these mechanisms to curate the good things, then it's extremely powerful if you also have monetary means or financial means to kind of amplify those things and amplify regeneration. But it really started at this purification effort, kind of how can we divide the good things, the regenerative things, the positive things, the supportive things from the negative? Because growing up in a country that has a very low trust culture, um, the general tension of the individual is to assume that you're trying to screw me over. And that is the biggest meme I want to accomplish with the whole region meme, is to allow people to move away from this scarcity thinking towards more of an abundance mindset that comes with a lot of love, positivity, opportunity. And then the financial and technical tools are just amplifiers or kind of tracks for their journey. But trying to do this at scale. So I've always struggled, and I still do, with getting people from level 0 to 1. That is the part that I'm still trying to learn more and more. How can I get someone that grew up in an environment that's extremely hostile? How can they get the region mindset? If you know, please let me know, because this is one of the biggest problems I'm facing. We're first learning how to get people from this kind of, let's say, normal mindset to the region mindset, but with a longer term goal to create a system where even those that grew up in poverty or grew up in a rough environment, that grew up, um, I mean, the things you see people do, man, like eating junk food, taking the plastic and literally just throwing it on the floor because they don't care. They don't have enough value for themselves, for the community. And that's, I think, my ultimate goal and the ultimate kind of passion, is to create systems where, because of care, because of love, people don't have to act that way. Um, yeah, but one of the biggest pain points really is this kind of imperialistic system that has taken away the autonomy of the local communities to be.
Cool. All right. Can you hear from Patrick?
Yeah, I think I share a lot of the same similarities with Luke, albeit maybe in not less of a demanding environment. Being in Tampa Bay, it is kind of a a prosperous city, but still the same problems occur where it can be fractionalized across, like, or centralized towards like the people who already have privilege or already have an advantage, continuing to get that advantage. So we basically started Tampa Bay DAO, and literally as an experiment to be like, okay, how can we concentrate all this cool tooling, cool mindset and methodology into a local area to see if we can make a positive sum shift, and see what will happen to our local area, because that's what I have love for this city, and we see these types of people every day. So it's like, I wonder what physical impact can be made, like if we just leverage these tools in a localized setting. So it's still an experiment, it's still ongoing, but it's very much to empower. It's all about empowering autonomous agents through this financialization tools, and hopefully the value creation that comes from that, and then whatever governance is necessary to continue to compound the positive sum game that we're attempting to play. How do we keep making the value bigger without extracting and circulating, i.e. the regenerative economics?
Right. Well said.
And I also don't have the answer, Luke, to the how do you break somebody out of that mindset? Like we have had some successes in the past with like getting people from like corporate 9-to-5 world or scarcity mindset, just not in that extreme of a situation. And it really comes in my mind, it came down to tight feedback loops that expanded like gradually with their progress. So we leverage like local events with local artists and getting feedback, getting some art sold, transforming it into NFTs, sending that value back to the DAO, making a decision over that treasury, little things like that. And then once they realized that it was like, oh, okay, this is practical, there's a path forward I can see, then their minds started to open up. But that's not the most scalable method. So I'm interested in hearing other ideas too.
Time takes a lot of time. All right, Mike.
And this is a complex subject. With our podcast and with what we've been doing with this village, we've had a deep focus on resiliency, because I find, having moved out of the West into Southeast Asia and then living in Eastern Europe for a long period of time, there's a huge cultural divide between the West and the East, or basically non-West. And that divide, it most notably to me has a lot to do with how people take personal responsibility and how they deal with things that they don't want. And what I keep seeing is that because things are kind of like more or less comfortable in the West, getting more and more uncomfortable, but we have a high degree of automation and comfort, people tend to externalize their decision making and externalize governance and externalize their sovereignty and decision making for doing good in the world. So it's kind of like, rather than doing something, I want to vote in the person who says they're going to do something. And like, even in our own community, we've seen this sort of knee-jerk reaction, this pull towards like, get someone else to do it. And so we've really tried to focus in on that. What is it that can, like you were kind of asking about, Luke, what can bring people into a mindset of taking more responsibility? And I think exposure is a huge answer to that. Like, exposure to hard things and building a culture that encourages people to do hard things, so they build up a thicker skin to be able to deal with hardship and deal with taking more personal responsibility. So the number one question we get asked about our project is, how are you approaching governance? And I say, we're not. We're like, basically, everyone has to, we're trying to build a culture of have hard conversations and sit with discomfort. And that's how we do governance. We have dinners and we hash it out. That's really it.
All right. I like those answers.
Maybe to chime on the question of Luke, how do you make people feel responsible, take responsibility? Yeah, it's a big cultural shift. And I think, to connect with what Mike was just saying, we come out of a century of citizens as consumers.
Yeah.
Where it was so hard to create anything. Before the internet, like if you wanted to share an idea, geez, you had to invest in a printing press, right? So basically, the only thing we can do if we see something that is not right, that we want to change, the only thing we could do is complain about it until someone hears about it, right, who is in government or whatever, and decides under pressure to finally do something about it. So we are in this culture of complainers. And now, thanks to technology, we have superpowers as citizens. Citizens have never been as powerful as they are today. Right? The problem is that they don't know it yet. right? And they still need to discover that new toolbox that is at the disposal. And of course, Web3 is one of those tools in that toolbox. But then once we coordinate, right, there is kind of this famous picture, right, with all the fish, like, don't panic, organize. And so once we coordinate, then we can make amazing things together. And so now with all of those tools, we are moving from a democracy of our voices, of people shouting and complaining and going on strike, to a democracy of action. Power belongs to the people who do. If you feel strongly enough about something, just come on. All the tools are at your disposal. You can crowdfund, you can organize, you can communicate. So do something about it. And if enough people share your view of the world, then enough people will kind of contribute and energize that initiative, that movement, until it makes something happen. To be very concrete, a good example that happened actually in Brussels like 10 years ago. We just celebrated the 10-year anniversary, where citizens decided to organize a picnic the street. So on the big street in the center of Brussels, they decided to organize a picnic every Sunday, block the traffic, and more and more people join, and so on, until it basically politicians had no other choice but having to actually turn that off, and create plans to make that into a pedestrian street, which was the very large pedestrian area right now, which makes things much better. So yes, and once citizens are part of the process, are part of the creation process, they're co-creators, they care a hell of a lot more than if it was actually a top-down thing that somebody else is responsible for. Now, this thing, because I put my time and energy into creating this pedestrian street, now I'm also gonna put time and energy to make sure it's a success. Because people will always remember me as someone who's been advocating for that, who has been part of making it happen, and so on. So now I have a skin in the game.
Yeah, I love that, especially as an example, because thinking like, okay, maybe if I was overwhelmed and didn't know what to do in this situation about how to turn a pedestrian street into more of a commons area, I like picnics. And if I see a picnic happening, hey, maybe I just want to have this picnic. Okay, this seems pretty fun. What are we going on over here? Like, oh, let me explain to you. And it's this low barrier of entry that is still lighthearted, but still has an effect, almost like a Trojan horse, that I find really interesting and really effective. So I'm thank you for sharing that example. These are the types of things that we try to do as well, because it can feel very overwhelming once you lay out all the problems in front of you and all the available tooling, and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, where do I start? What are these baby steps that are lighthearted, that makes it fun, makes it feel like, oh, okay, this is like actually what we should be doing. Like it's not this like Herculean rebel against the machine type of effort. It's really just us collaborating and coordinating together, like picnics and eating and enjoying.
Yeah, and I think that to some degree, I think that is the secret for the 0 to 1 that we're still learning to uncover, is the fun. Something we've been experimenting with on the ground recently with a local esports team is kind of teen-led beach cleanups and teen-led smaller initiatives that look extremely fun on Instagram, and all the teams are like, "Holy crap, I want to be part of that thing." But essentially, it's just a refi trap, because as soon as they start cleaning the beach, they're going to start cleaning more things, and they're going to be interested in syntropic agroforestry, and it kind of takes them gradually down the path of becoming regenerators. But it starts with something that just looks really fun. It looks like a game. It feels like a game. You get some points here and there, and out of nowhere, you can buy this expensive hat that you could never get, and you're super proud of it. And that's really the movement that I hope we can move towards more and more. I mean, I played a lot of games, maybe too much in my lifetime, um, but I do really feel that is maybe this kind of magic unlock that we're still looking for, because almost everyone, I think everyone likes games in some way, whether it's gambling or like everybody likes something. And I think if we can do those things in an ethical way and get the outcomes that make the world a better place, I think that's potentially how we could scale this to like the majority of the population, and not just let it be for niche people that have the maybe the luxury to find regeneration and be able to kind of back it.
We need the Pokemon Go of Regen. Regen Go. Go, go, go.
Yeah, making it more fun makes it much more likely that people will actually do it. And I like this common thread of like actually empowering people and encouraging them to take action, because like this sort of learned helplessness of, oh no, like other people need to solve problems, and people that are used to that. And I know it, like when I was starting metagame, okay, this is going to be a DAO, so it's decentralized and everybody should just come in and step up. And then you realize like most people are not really autonomous. They're not gonna be like, okay, come in and start doing things. A lot of people like expect a lot of hand holding and to be like, okay, tell me what to do, tell me what to do. And like, no, I'm not supposed to. You're supposed to figure it out.
We're playing with contests a bit. So like we're trying to figure out ways to raise a bit more funding for the land so we can do some projects. So we're approaching different kind of like glamping dome manufacturers or any kind of like housing or energy companies to get them to sponsor contests. And the contest that we're doing is basically to create like a village simulator game. And so what we want to do is have like people collaborate and basically kit bash, which means take like pieces of 3D assets and bash them together to make their own version of a regenerative village. And then we'll have contests based off of like how efficient or how beautiful or how cool or unique these different villages are, and then award prizes from the sponsors. So that's something we're playing with right now, using Unreal Engine 5 to create like really good photorealistic renderings of villages.
Oh wow, that's awesome. And I was wondering like where I could get resources to like show people what a solar punk future could look like. So maybe even those assets could be sold for people that want to create blog posts and stuff like that. That also is additional funding. Because
Well,
I like
actually,
the envisioning of it is really important too.
I fully agree. That's why like the contest has multiple stages. So there's like the kit bashing part, and then there's the 3D modeling part. And what we want to do, like if you're at all familiar with Unreal Engine, they have a unique partnership with a photogrammetry company that basically travels around the world and photo scans assets that you can use inside of Unreal Engine. So they'll scan like mountains and trees and all kinds of different objects, and they give it away for free inside of Unreal Engine. And what has actually happened is this massive movement, this massive community of builders are coming together, taking all these assets, kit bashing, that's what it's called, kit bashing them together and making these beautiful renders. So our thinking about this is there are a lot of sci-fi stories, a lot of TV shows, a lot of movies, a lot of games that tell stories about the future from this lens of like cyberpunk or dystopian futures. And I tried to like build in Unreal Engine a village and realized there were no assets out there or very few assets for anything regenerative. No earth ships or very few. No like farming kind of templates for permaculture. Basically nothing if you wanted to create a solar punk vision, like you know, maybe some templates for solar panels or something, but very, very basic, low resolution. So we were like, okay, well, let's make this one of the contest items. Let's crowdsource a huge number of 3D assets. Let's make a list of regenerative 3D assets and get people to design them, and then just give them away for free. And the DAO, like our DAO, will be responsible for making that happen.
Man, that's amazing. And we should work together on this, because like we actually did in Brussels an Solarpunk NFT contest. We invited local artists to, hey, help us reimagine the streets of Brussels in a Solarpunk future, right? Because indeed, as Patrick was saying, actually one of the biggest problems is actually might not even be the climate emergency, but maybe a lack of imagination. We are incapable of imagining a different system, right? Where that is not driven by GDP, infinite growth, and so on and so on. And so so we were basically asking, okay, we need system change, we need a renaissance. There is no renaissance without artistic renaissance, and there is no artistic renaissance without a new way to fund artists, right? Because
NFTs.
You cannot criticize the hands that feed you, right? So who is going to be the Medicis of this digital renaissance that we have to go through right now? Well, it's going to be all of us. right? That we coordinated, of course, with all of those blockchain technologies. And so what we did, we asked local artists, hey, please do artwork, solarpunk artwork. And in the process, we're going to teach you how to mint NFTs. We did raise some funds on Gitcoin as part of the GR13. And then we basically, as the DAO of Brussels, we bought those art pieces. It was the first time those artists were able to make some money online for their work. And so, yeah, and then we did an exhibition, and that was all great. And now there's another ongoing Gitcoin grind happening right now to fund solarpunk artists. So if you're interested into that, please have a look. But
Wow.
I love what you do, Mike. This is totally great, and would be great to see. There is already some money that's been raised. So if you need some funding also for that, I think it would be great. Everything that we can do to incentivize people to help us imagine, and yes, with Unreal Engine, that's, geez, amazing. Yes, more of that, please.
Yeah.
More.
I'm just obsessed with Unreal Engine. It's so cool. There's so many cool renderings. Just do a YouTube search for Unreal Engine 5 90 days in YouTube. It's brilliant, indistinguishable from reality, like these renders. Anyway, there's one more thing I wanted to add. We want to build basically like the regenerative metaverse. We want to give people a common place to come in and not have these janky, crappy graphics. Like that's why Unreal Engine is so cool, because you can real-time render beautiful photorealistic environment. So we want to build it that way. And we want to build in courses and workshops and stuff that people can come in and they see this layout of a permaculture farm, and they can see courses of the people who actually built it, and actually learn how to do it. And so we also want to create a one-to-one connection between our land in our version of this metaverse. So, it's called the Smart Village. We want to have sensors coming in for energy and for food production and all kinds of things, and have that data visualized inside of the metaverse space so people can see and optimize and collaborate with that data. And then when we host actual permaculture workshops, or even home building, hempcrete homes, or setting up a community center, any of that stuff, we want to film the whole thing and give people the ability to re-experience the build and the education behind that build in the metaverse. So they can literally walk to the same location that thing took place and then watch a course right there.
Where can you find more information about this?
Portaldao.io is where it is now. There's nothing's launched yet. But what I'm going to be doing in the next couple of weeks after I get back from Emerge conference is putting together a big contest for people to start building these assets and then kit bashing. So it's a 2-stage thing. Yeah.
Yes.
So I also
There will
need
also be a-
sponsors to put up prizes for this. So that's the next thing I'm thinking about.
There will be a full talk about this after the panel. So for those who want to learn more, also stay for Mike's talk after the panel.
Cool.
I wanted to say, with all the things that are happening in the virtual world, not just metaverse, but just online DAOs, and the difficulties of doing things in the physical world. What are the benefits of focusing on a real life project rather than just working in a fully digital organization?
You get real-time results. You actually see the result of your hard work immediately. We just did flood mitigation, and we had to dig some swales and ditches and stuff. And it was I never experienced that working online. It's 6 months to a year pass before I see any real results from my work. So that's pretty empowering and inspiring.
I think it's also the realness of physical connections with people. You see their day by day growth as well, and you see how they physically change over time. I think it's really exciting. One thing that I'm super proud of is that the team that I'm working with now, we've all gotten more in shape over the past 6 months. Almost as a cultural meaning, kind of we believe that if we want to embody such values, we should be eating more healthy, we should be moving more, we should be taking care about our mental health. And seeing that progress, I think that's as impactful to me as the results on the ground. Seeing the team develop and really become a team, and that's incredible. And maybe next to that is kind of like Mike is saying, like Mike said before, that if you have a problem, you can figure it out in person really well. Um, I know you take someone to a football field and you say, "Hey, let's kick the ball for an hour and let's just chat why we had this fight or why," which is one of my biggest frustrations with digital DAOs, especially the past, let's say, 6 months, year, is that every single conversation is happening through a forum or a Discord, which I think are some of the worst mediums of alignment. I think they're great for debating, but really bad for aligning. Um, so I really like that kind of realness aspect of doing kind of underground impact stuff, because yeah, it gives me so much pleasant feedback loop that even if it doesn't feel like we changed the world today, or I raised funds, or we've still had a good day. And I do it's kind of drawing me more and more away from my computer and more into places where I can sit with physical people and do physical things.
Yeah, I think I would
Patrick?
just echo all of those points, and like it's also interesting to see kind of, I don't know the right word to describe it, but maybe like the rhythm or like when things start to become a movement and they become out of your control, you can see that more real time in a physical location, like through the meeting sizes or just random people on the street being like, "Hey, you're the crypto guy, right? This TBD, what are you guys doing?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is like turning into something." uh, and it's pretty exciting because people like with that combination of the human connection and a shared problem or a shared mission, then people like that alone empowers people to go out and talk about it. And if you give them that human connection, then they feel like a sense of ownership in the outcome that maybe they're not directing, maybe you're directing, but still they know it affects them because of this meme that they're tied to. And it's been kind of really fascinating to see the memes spread across at least my local area, and how that emerges in different types of events or different types of random phone calls about who I need to talk to about this one thing. Like it's kind of exciting.
We're starting to have this too now, where I overheard a girl telling another one, "Yeah, Collectivo is this big organization, gives a bunch of grants,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Wow, we're hitting it, people."
It's exciting.
It's not, I don't know about you, but also like maybe to bring another voice here, it's not always easy neither. Um, it's really real. Like we also started kind of this temporary occupation to create a common for the neighborhood, and yes, it's really nice to see the impact, to see bringing people together. It's wonderful, and we need that so much, especially now with extreme polarization, right? Bringing people together, it's really important, but it's not always easy. Like right now, I mean, there is the, as you know, there's the war in Ukraine. There's been a bunch of Ukrainian refugees. We welcome a couple of them at the Citizen Corner, and you hear their stories, and wow, it put things in perspectives, you know. And maybe that's actually a positive point of doing things in the real space is, I feel like if we only do things in the metaverse, it's easy to get disconnected from real issues in the world, and then we start solving and doing what I call intellectual masturbation. You know, and then like, but how can we actually use those superpowers to have a meaningful impact? How do we make it like, okay, those people now coming from Ukraine, like how come they cannot open a bank account right now? And okay, cool, we have this all of those tools and crypto and stuff, and okay, we can create them a MetaMask, but they cannot buy bread with it, right? So it gets really real. And then you realize that, oh, wow, actually, how far we still are, how early all of this still is, right? So I feel like it's, in a way, like, yeah, I think it would be good. And I would love to invite more people in the Web3 space to spend their week, like to reconnect with the local community, with their neighbors. Like, how are we going to change the world if we cannot change our street? And let's make sure that by getting real with, you know, real people in our streets, like we also have new ideas about, you know, now that we get into remote working, like the water cooler conversation is not anymore with colleagues. It's going to happen more and more locally, which I think is a really good thing, because now we start thinking about, oh, that's an issue that you have, well, I have the same issue, maybe we can solve this together. And by the way, I've heard of this thing called collectivo or future thinkers, and this can really help. And this is where your work gets meaning.
Right. Well said. And you touched on some of the challenges as well, and I wanted to see what others have to say about that. Like, what are the some of the biggest problems and obstacles that you come up with doing something physical, especially with crypto?
Regulation and banks. I think number one is these bureaucratic systems are so expensive and they take so long, um, which really halters our development. I think for already 3 years now, um, things are moving, but just very slow. And it creates fear for people, and we don't want to create fear. This is already scary, new terrain. We're already teaching them new words and new rhythms and new. Also, having to tell them, "Oh no, don't worry, it's not going to jail." I shouldn't have to tell them that. Um, I think what I need at least is just very clear, simple, and fast regulation. I think it's completely legit that we need to play according to some rules, but at least let's put these rules forwards and let's make them executable. Um, and the second is banks, which kind of relates to it. Um, but the biggest challenge we have on the ground is that it's extremely hard to off ramp cryptocurrency into the local currency. It's even harder to get a international Visa card or something like that, which then ends up people going to black markets, which has real risks to it. People needing to go to shady stores, or nobody wants that. I don't want it. The government doesn't want it. The people don't want it. But it's just a lack of ability and kind of lack of again regulation tools, which you don't experience on the like digital world. You can just do all the digital things, and no one really cares. And if even if they do, it's like, what you gonna do?
I have so much to say on this subject. It's just so the bureaucracy in Canada is just so absurd sometimes trying to get anything done. And like everyone talks about the local regional district governance systems as just being so backwards. Like one example is one of my neighbors has this beautiful timber frame house and used with local materials, built by local people. And recently, the local government decided we don't like these structures anymore. They're not allowed, even though they've been used for hundreds of years. And all of those structures are still standing while our current stick-built, crappily insulated houses fall down after 20 years. They're just so bad. And so these are not allowed. They don't like the way they're structured anymore, so we can't do it. And like going to your point about efficient rules and regulations, I don't think we can do that if the knee-jerk reaction of individuals is to say we need a law for this or we need a regulation for this. We need, the government needs to do something. I think we need a lot more just like permissionless. I'm going to try and do this, and if I screw it up, I'm responsible for it. I'm not going to sue anyone or get this thing insured necessarily, but I need the freedom to be able to experiment and do this on my own, without the government telling me, without some bureaucrat who has no connection to the land telling me what I can or can't do.
Yeah, the problem is that we come out of a system that is a lot of top down, and it's all about it's about ego, it's about power. I mean, it's not any better in Europe, in Belgium. I mean, I'd have to say Belgium is not a country, it's a concept, and most countries are, by the way, right? So yeah, I don't know, like I think I understand, like we're not going to be able to escape regulations. That's gonna happen, right? So the best we can hope is, like Luuk is saying, like at least make it transparent, fair, simple, so that we can move on. I feel like one thing that is important is that people need to see that crypto can be useful for our shared goals. Because if they only see crypto through those clickbaits of degens, right, then guess what, right? Regulations are gonna be climbing on us, right? But if they see crypto as being a piece of the puzzle, part of the solution, helping with the SDGs, like then, and so we need also to get those politicians and others onto Web3, And so yeah, because we need to experience that. We need to make friends, basically, show them that we can be a force for good. And that's why I
When we
love
do,
all of you here in this room, because we are all working on that, which is amazing. So more of that, please.
you gave me an idea, actually. When we do this regen contest, we should get a list of politicians and send them the NFTs of each of the Earth ships and all the things that we would want locally. Be like, all right, we made this NFT for you. Check it out.
Cool, yeah. And Patrick, you want to share something on the subject?
I don't think I have much to add here. I just echo all everyone's sentiments.
Yeah. Fucking regulations, man.
I think the degens are worse, to be honest. I presented at Impact the Netherlands, I think 3 weeks ago. It was the most uncomfortable presentation in my life, because here there were like 400 young people in the Netherlands that identify with impact. They want to make a positive change. And I was giving a presentation on regeneration and autonomy. And in the presentation, I asked who thinks that crypto and Web3 creates more harm than good. And I kid you not, 95% raised their hand. And this is our target audience. These are the people that are regens, they're entrepreneurs, the foundation leaders, kind of the people that are doing their best to make the world a better place. And they didn't just think that it's not useful. They literally thought it is harmful, because the only memes that they hear is money go up, Bitcoin is bad for the environment, blockchains are a scam. Look what the famous football player did to his following. Kind of, that's just the messaging that gets to them. And I think the only way to counter it is for us regens to make as much noise as the counterparties. And it's hard because they're driven by money, they're driven by fame, they're driven by everything that they want. And yeah, it forces me also to be more vocal. And I'm not the most vocal person myself. I like to just do the work and not talk about what work I did. But it's becoming more and more important, I think, to flip the switch and really spread this mindset that we have.
But I think that action speaks louder than words at the end. And as people will see more and more initiatives that are really taking the side of citizens that fight for a regenerative future, the narrative will naturally switch. I mean, I don't know. That's my hope. That's my belief. I don't know. Have you seen this initiative in Liverpool called People? Peepl. People Eat. They're basically redoing Uber Eats, a Deliveroo, but using Web3 on the Fuse blockchain. And I think this is such a great use case, because this is something that everyone in every city experience using those platforms. We eat every day, right? And even though you order food from 3 kilometers away and there is someone local that brings it to you on a bicycle, like, you give 30% to a multinational, right? And on top of that, there is all of those debates everywhere about the fact that those delivery people, like, they are actually underpaid, and and all of those issues, right? So this is a good way to actually get even local politicians on your side, because this is a real issue. People talk about it. There's already massive margins, so you can easily make it like sustainable, financially sustainable. And then you can use that, some of that margins, into a participative budgeting, right, to enable the local community to do something about that. But so they're just getting started, but this is very promising. And I think, like, it's through projects like those where we can unite against those extractive economy of those Web2 platforms, but something that is very real at the local level. And then people will see, like, what, in order for me to be part of this and enjoy this, I also need to have a crypto wallet and join that. And of course they will say yes. And all of a sudden, all the fears they have about that will go away. So it's all about making it concrete to people.
That's why I think NFTs are so cool, because, I can make a thing. I can make something cool. And even if it took me 5 minutes, my friends might want it, especially if it's this limited edition thing. We were making our NFT and testing, and one of the guys I was working with, a crypto expert, just made an NFT of a Schnauzer dog because he likes these dogs. I was like, can you please send that to me when you finish? Like, just send me the test one. And that was my first NFT. I was like, this is so cool. I don't know. I think it's such a cool entry point, but then the When Moon people come in and ruin everything.
Yeah, and those people will exist. Like one of the parts of this local thesis is like the more concentrated you have operators that are also participating in the community, the more the mind shifts. And you combine that with like successful applications, then like there's kind of areas in Tampa Bay where if you go and ask somebody about crypto over here, they may say it's more harmful. But if you go to where, you know, Tampa Bay DAO, the network of us are around, then they're all going to say, like the vast majority of them are going to say, no, it's very helpful. It's a very loving and inclusive space, X, Y, and Z. And then like, so that's like the kind of, you have these mimetic drivers, and then combine that with like, we're still in an immature phase of the technology itself, but you have different applications like people, which it's people or what was the name of the project again, Xavier?
Yeah, I shared in the chat.
Oh, okay,
Eat
perfect.
with
People
double
eat,
E.
yeah. It's ironic because at Pocket there, Fuse uses Pocket, and I saw that application. I was like, I have to feature these guys in our article because like this is such a cool application. So it's interesting to see that coming back around. But anyway, the you know, once we have these successful use cases with these like empowerment organizations, then I think we'll really start to see the wave change. And it you know, if you concentrate it at a local level, you have much more of a fighting shot than shouting at the internet people, shouting at the internet heads.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
All right, let's proceed to the final question with 10 minutes left. Talk about some of the hopes and dreams of what you want to achieve or where you think this is going. Whoever is ready, feel free to start.
I guess I'll start. Yeah, I would love to see more people in Tampa Bay specifically, and then hopefully this models to other localities, or they could be urban areas or non-urban areas, but more people just be empowered. First, being financially free, and then being creatively free, and then that gives them more time to like express themselves and evoke their imagination and provide value where they wouldn't otherwise if they had like a typical 9 to 5. And then getting to the root of like how is value generated in an area and focusing more time on that. That's when you get into like permaculture and kind of attention economy stuff and craftsmanship and things like that, all of which has an not all of which, attention really doesn't, but some of which has more of an upfront cost. So I envision like Tampa Bay full of these like financially free agents from Web3 that are doing more infrastructure level stuff to generate value, and then circulating that value back. So hopefully we can pull that off or something close to that. And having fun the whole time. It's all like, gotta have fun.
All right. Who wants to go next?
Well, like
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I totally second what Patrick is saying. Yeah, I'd love to accelerate the system change on climate change, right? And to me, it's about moving away from LLCs, privately owned companies, to community owned, basically commons, right? DAOs. And I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I want to make sure that she won't have to work for a privately owned company, that she will be able to work for one or multiple communities. And as a way to get there, I'd love to get to a 4-day work week, and with one day as a community day, where everyone basically has equal opportunity to go work for a community, whether it's in the neighborhood or a DAO or whatnot, because people need to experience that. So as soon as we can give people opportunities to step out of these privately owned vehicles as a way to create resources to more like a community way, working together, digital cooperatives. I'd love to see that. I'm sure we'll get there. I'm positive. It's not going to be a straight line though, so fasten your seatbelt.
Oh, I'll go, and then Mikey, if you're really thinking it through, Sam, I really want to hear you last. I think
You're gonna be disappointed.
no worries.
He's a future thinker.
I think my dream would really be for more people to be in the spot that we're in, We're laughing a lot here. We're talking very serious things. We're talking very innovative things, but we're still having fun. We're feeling good. I hope that through the frameworks that we're creating, whether they're economic, financial, kind of ecological, that we allow more people to just have a good life. And I think as a result, we'll have a better Earth. Yeah, my focus has really shifted more and more towards just helping people grow and then seeing what they do. So I hope that we're really truly able to leverage the tools that we are discovering, and that we can create more equal access to that knowledge and tools. Because I think we have found some sort of a special diamond here. I think we're all living really purposeful lives because of this crazy Web3 space that we've discovered, and especially I would say refi. And I want this to scale to the billions. And maybe a final note. I mean, that's why with, for example, Collectivo, we're so closely building towards next to Cello. It's really aligning ourselves with groups that share that vision more than anything else. I think values are kind of value alignment is the number one priority for me now when I engage with people, when I engage with organizations. Yeah, and I hope more people can do that among us with our movements and connect to us. Mike, you can finish it off.
Sure. It's a challenge to talk about this piece, and because it's not attractive, it's not fun, it's not pleasurable, but this piece of like leaning into difficulty has really gone against the grain in I think Western culture, and I really wish more people could see how much their lives would benefit by leaning into things that make them uncomfortable. And that sounds like typical like entrepreneurial bro talk, but it really, I see it on an embodied level in the land all the time. Like the willingness to get your hands dirty and do hard things makes you tougher, like exposing yourself to cold or hot or wet or just anything uncomfortable builds up resistance to that. And then everything becomes more fun, like when you have thicker skin. And so I would say that across the board, physically, mentally, emotionally, there obviously is a lot of opportunity out there right now, but I still see a lot of people kind of like running from hard things. And that's definitely what I would wish would scale, is a culture that allowed for that. Yeah.
What I just want to add there to finish off, I think it's also the ability to share good things. I think it's a privilege to be able to enjoy the hard things. And I want to make sure that we can also share the good things. A good ripe mango can change your day, and I want everybody to be able to experience that joy of kind of dripping mango. And like I feel that it's a combination of those two, kind of rewarding the hard work with the fruits that we harvest together is kind of the key to this movement.
And let's also make sure that we create also an inclusive space. I mean, here we are again, like only guys, and we need to bring neighbors. We need to bring women, of course. We need to make this space needs to reflect the world, right? So let's sit in the fire and let's attack also those things that are not always easy. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone. This was a lot of fun, and
thank you all. This was great.
Thank you, guys.
Great panel.
Yep.
And Mike, you're gonna stay with us for your talk. It's about to start in a few minutes. It also reminded me of the course that you had going, the shadow work. Is that still, do you still have that up?
Yep. Yeah, that's inside of our community. futurethinkers.org/members. Yeah, okay. How do you want to start this?
All right. Hey, pleasure meeting you guys. I'll take off
Patrick,
here.
Bye, Xavier.
I look forward to catching your presentation, Mike, afterwards.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye,
Nice to meet
everyone.
you guys.
Guys.
Thanks so much.